Now, listen, I want to tell you about something that we've got at NRA TV right now, an extended interview with Paul Clement, former Solicitor General, and he's actually the attorney who's going to be arguing this case, this 2A case, before the Supreme Court later this year, the case taking on New York City, that crazy law in New York City that says if you're a legal, licensed handgun owner, you can't take your gun outside of your home unless you're going to one of 7 pre-approved ranges in the 5 boroughs. So Paul Clement is going to be representing those gun owners before the Supreme Court. And I spoke with him the other day for about 20 minutes or so. We got really into the nitty-gritty of this case. One of the questions that I asked him is why this case, which again involves a law that's really on the books in New York City, why this case is so important to gun owners across the nation. Here's what he had to say.
Well, this case is going to matter a lot across the nation because it's really going to be virtually the first time that the Supreme Court decides how to apply the Second Amendment to a restriction like this and what mode of analysis the courts are supposed to use and how they are supposed to apply, presumably, some form of heightened scrutiny. Because if you go back a decade, the last time the Supreme Court had a case, it was a very important case called McDonald against the City of Chicago, but the real issue there wasn't how the Chicago rule there applied. It was really a broader question of whether the Second Amendment was going to apply to the actions of state and local governments, or the argument the court rejected was that the amendment would apply only to the federal government. And then if you go back to the Heller case, although they did hold the particular D.C. restriction there unconstitutional, the principal issue was really, again, a very broad issue about whether or not the Second Amendment protected individual rights, and the court rejected the collective rights view of the amendment. So this is really, this will be the third case in this very important trilogy, and this will be the case where I think they instruct the lower courts, this is how you apply the Second Amendment. This is, given that the framers embodied this right in our Constitution, here is how you look at a law that admittedly infringes the Second Amendment to a degree, and here's how you decide whether that law is constitutional or unconstitutional. And I think just the fact that they're doing that is going to have a huge impact. But I also think the fact that we've had to wait a decade for this, and a number of courts, have applied McDonald and Heller in a way that nonetheless let a lot of restrictions stand, I do think this, by the court getting back in the game, so to speak, I do think it's going to be a very, very important decision.
Again, that Paul Clement, who will be arguing that case before the Supreme Court later in the year. You can hear the entire interview with Mr. Clement right here and right now at NRA TV. Well, not right now. You might want to wait till we're actually off the air with Cam and company. But you can check out the entire interview here at NRA TV.